With Carlien Scheele, we talk today about opposition against gender equality policies. We are at the European University Institute State of the Union Conference 2023. And Carlien, I would like to start by asking you, what are the main challenges you see in achieving gender equality in Europe?
Well, I think that the biggest challenge is that there's hardly any progress. So my institute looks at the state of play of gender equality in the European Union, at union level and also member state level. And since we started, let's say, looking at that state of play in 2010, there's hardly been any progress. And that's worrying, despite all the efforts that we have done so far as member states, as union, also as agency. Progress is very slow.
Yeah. There's little has happened, you say. Well, what are the opportunities? Where can we make a change? Where can we make progress?
It's always good to stay positive, no? Because otherwise we get depressed. Well, I think if you look at the current times, what is very positive is that this European Commission has launched quite some legislation. The Directive on Pay Transparency, for example, the Directive on Women on Company Boards. Also, they have launched a gender equality strategy that runs until the end of 2025. And I think if I look at the strategy, for example, where gender mainstreaming is such an important topic, what we see now is that member states and European institutions, they all want to work on gender equality, which creates opportunities. And what we do as an agency is we provide the relevant data and information that policymakers can use when they want to develop policies on gender equality. We give the baseline, we give the evidence, and I feel that this current period, it's quite encouraging and also positive. And I hope it continues this way, and that we also see in a few years' time, we see also, let's say, the results of this in our Gender Equality Index.
Yeah, as the European Institute for Gender Equality, you of course look at all European countries.
Yes.
Could you tell us maybe a little bit about the differences you see between countries? I don't think it's a homogeneous picture within a union of 27 countries.
No, of course. I mean, we look at different fields, for example, the field of work, the area of work, the area of income, money. And of course, we do see differences between member states. If you look at the index, you see a ranking from place 1 to 27, but I don't think that's the most important, let's say, goal of that index. What we really envisage with the index is that each and every member state for themselves can see where lies the room for improvement. And again, once they see where they want to work on, we can also provide them with the relevant data and information and support also from our side. So that's the main goal. But of course, if you have 27 member states, there is differences.
Yeah. It's actually quite a difficult topic, gender equality, as it encompasses so many things. So I'd like to ask you, what are some common misconceptions you come across in your work?
Well, I have been working in this area for more than 20 years, and I can basically mention 3. I think the first misconception or wrong idea is that gender equality has been achieved. So myself, I come from a country, the Netherlands, where sometimes people think that there's no more challenges in that area, but there are. Although we are quite high in the ranking, if you look at the Gender Equality Index, of course it hasn't been achieved. And that also goes for other member states. And again, the index, we give points to the member states and European Union. If you have 100 points, you would have achieved full gender equality. None of the member states have achieved this so far, and the European Union neither. For the European Union, it's 68.6 points. So that shows that no, gender equality has not been achieved. The second misconception, or maybe, wrong idea that people might have, is that we are solely focusing on women's issues. But gender equality, and I can't stress this enough, it's about equality between women and men in all the diversity. And one field, for example, so we use our data and information to look at the state of play. So what is the situation for women and men, boys and girls in the European Union? And for example, one area where you see that boys, for example, have more problems than girls is education. So this means that no, it's not only about women's rights, it's not only about girls' rights, it's about basically everybody in all their diversity. All citizens of the EU have the right to have equal opportunities to work, to be free of violence, for example. So that's the second one. And then the third one is that I sometimes get the question, but we are living in a time of crisis, so why should we talk about gender equality? It's not important. Let's put it aside. That often happens also with human rights. It's considered a soft issue. Let's put it aside. Now we talk about important business. How do we get out of the financial crisis, for example? And what we keep saying, and also we try to convince people that gender equality basically is part of the solution. Because how can you solve the financial crisis without looking at who are suffering from this crisis? And to give you a clear example, we know from our research, for example, that single parent households often live in poverty. And we know it's often women, it's mothers. So if you totally ignore that fact as a member state, and if you develop policies to counteract and to combat poverty, and if you don't target the ones who are living in poverty, you might miss, you might miss relevant outcomes, and you might spend money and time on policies that basically have no effect. So taking gender equality into account in times of crisis it's of utmost importance. You have to understand the situation of the citizens in your country, and this means men and women, boys and girls in all their diversity. I keep repeating this. You have to understand as a member state, it's important that you see who are these people, what is their situation in daily life. Yeah.
Carlien Scheele, I think you have helped us to, and you showed us actually what an important topic this is, and that it's important to look at it at a venue like the State of the Union conference, because it affects so many people and policy areas in the EU sphere. Thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.